Hello, everyone. Please come take a seat. We have exciting journey this morning. There's a lot of seats here, so we're here to save the planet. So it would be great to have a bit more people. So don't hesitate, join us. So I'm Vincent Stuhlen. I'm the founder and CEO of ImpactLabs.Earth, and we have a great purpose. I don't know if you can show the slide already. Our purpose is to help the ecological transition of companies and hopefully make them nature positive. So the goal for today and this little introduction is to set the scene for the whole morning and to let you understand a bit better what is happening, the reality of the situation, what are the challenges ahead, what are the role that technology can play in solving this ecological crisis. So let me start with this little emotional connection to why we're here. So this is the overview effect, this very famous picture, the first time that humans, astronauts, were looking at planet Earth, called Gaia in ancient Greek, and it means Mother Earth. And they were struck by the fragility and the uniqueness of this little planet. And from what science tells us, that might be the only one that is supporting life. Despite this uniqueness, we know from science that we've been passing a lot of the planetary boundaries. So you might know this framework. It's called the Planetary Boundaries Framework from Stockholm Resilience Center. And it was released 20 years ago. And now from science, we can understand much better each of those boundaries. And we've been quantifying them. And we know that we're passing 6 out of 9. We're pushing those boundaries into a red zone and close to potential tipping point that might be irreversible. What we also understood is that we don't understand exactly how those boundaries interact with each other. So that's why we've been systematically, chronically underestimating the scale and the rapidity of changes. That's what happened for climate change. Talking about greenhouse gas emissions, there were some agreement in COP21 in Paris in 2015, where 197 countries aligned on keeping the temperature under 1.5 degrees at the end of the century. But didn't really work. We're still accelerating with greenhouse gas emissions. We didn't curb it. And guess what? The end of the century is happening now. 2024 is the first time humanity will encounter a 1.5 degree increase of temperature. And this is creating lots of damages that we could see this year. So now we're heading to consensus around 3.2 degree. That's the IPCC median scenario. But we've been underestimating, so we must think about the world at plus 4 degree. And if this was not enough, we've got other boundaries collapsing. So this one is the biodiversity, and where we've been really destroying it at unprecedented rates, more than 100 times faster than any recorded natural events. And this is quite dramatic because we understand how this is connecting with the other boundaries. We understand that climate change is changing water cycle, that is impacting biodiversity, which is reducing the capacity of ecosystem to regulate climate. So we are in this downward spiral, which is critical for the stability of our life support system. So why is this happening? Okay, we all know it. We're accelerating. Here you have the very famous great acceleration, which is showing in the red part the output, or input of humans on the pressure of the ecosystem. We're extracting even more materials, we're extracting fossil fuels, we increase energy output. All this make Earth system respond. So in the blue part of the screen, you have the response of the planetary boundaries. And all this is showing exponential curves. Doesn't make sense. It's a classic joke to say that you need to be either a fool or an economist to believe in infinite growth on a finite planet. Yet, this is what we're doing. So what's the root cause of that? We all know it. It's often the elephant in the room. It's business. It's our economic system. It is extractive shareholder capitalism that was dominated by one single KPI, growth, growth, growth. So if business is a problem, we also know the solution. So we have 1% companies who are leading the change. They are proactively changing their business model, having aggressive net zero trajectories under science-based targets. And they are also considering now nature. So they're not only reducing the negatives, they're also thinking how to embed positive impact into their business model. Then you have 9% of companies that are followers. They start to plan, they start to have a carbon footprint, they start to reduce energy, material input. They are thinking about how to make their growth more sustainable. So what's the rest? The rest is actually business as usual, sometimes with a bit of green paint on top of it, but not really changing things. And they're just waiting for regulations to hit them. Thanks God, Europe is leading the way here, and we have a beautiful acronym, CSRD, which is standing for Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, that will hit next year 50,000 companies. Hopefully they won't delay it. So this is much less than 1% of the total amount of companies, 25 million in Europe, but this is actually more than half of the economy. And they will have to report on all those impacts and the materiality of risk that their business is having on nature. Okay? But so regulations always come late. We know that they are coming 20 years later than what science is telling us. So we cannot wait for regulation. We need bold new generation of leaders to take action and make their business more resilient. So these are the consequences. This is not nice to see. Is unprecedented changes, storms, gale force winds, floods, infrastructure destruction, forest collapsing, fire, drought, and in the end, lots of human misery. So this is a dark picture, always scary, hate to show that, but this is a reality, and this is not in the distant future. It's happening now. So what do? We need to really shift. We need to reboot business. We need to reboot the economy and to get into more sustainable models. We need to put companies at the center of the action, of course. Companies have the responsibility to act, but they need to shift from shareholder to stakeholder value creation. Value creation for people, society, planet. They need to embrace the donuts economics, which you might have heard about. And while doing this, you need to think about how you move from extracting things, extracting energy, even more materials, to something that will be much more circular, fueled by renewable energy, which means stopping the negative damages. But this is not enough. This is not enough because we need to reverse. We need to reverse the damage on the planetary boundaries to get back to stable ecosystems that can create value. So we need a regenerative business model. And this is much more exciting as an outlook because this is to restore what is alive on Earth. This is to restore ecosystem, mountains, forests, oceans, and of course, make it sustainable for the little humans living on it. I don't know how this is much more exciting than going back to the moon or even going to Mars. Makes no sense, actually. This is really an opportunity to go back to nature, go back to Earth, and make the planet great again. We have a playbook for that. It's quite simple. Simple on the slides, hard to implement. The first piece is really to rely on science. There are multiple frameworks being published to help measure the pressure on the ecosystems. The most famous one is science-based target, and they're releasing in 25 a complete framework and playbook to allow companies to plan for avoidance, reduction, and restoration of nature. Then we have technology, and this is where technology plays a role to really support that movement. Here we have AI solutions, open data, remote sensing, satellite fleets that can help monitor, measure, and pilot reduction trajectories on all those pressures on the ecosystem. So this is the role of technology. But then we also need to use nature tech, nature technologies, nature that has been engineering the way it works for hundreds of millions of years. So this is a combination of human technology with the technology of nature that will help us to scale and solve the problem. So this is last point is super important, is that you cannot just put a bit of technology on business as usual. You have to change your business model. You need to account for this value creation for people, society, planet. This is absolutely key. So this is certainly a bit of a frightening outlook, but this is also a huge opportunity to thrive again and make this planet great again. So it is the greatest challenge of all time, but we have all the science and technology to make it happen if only we use it wisely.